Hello fellow creators, welcome or welcome back to Said Okay. Today's tutorial is on how to draft, cut and sew this beautiful jumpsuit with a sweatheart neckline, ruche detailing as well as a cutout detail and a straight leg trouser. Okay, so yeah, I showed you how to draft, cut and sew it. So if you're interested and you want to make this for yourself, then make sure you keep on watching. So the first pattern that we're going to be drafting is the back panel, and I've already gone ahead to leave 1 inch from the edge of the pattern paper for the zip allowance. And as you can see, I'm just leaving half an inch at the top of the pattern just so I have that there when I want to add my seam allowance for the shoulder seam. Okay, so the first thing that I'm doing is marking the neckline. So I want my neckline to be 1 inch deep, like normal, necklines for the back, while for the width of the neckline I'm going with 5 inches. So I'm just marking that 5 inches on the top line, and then when I mark it there, as you can see, I'm going down by there by 1 inch, and then I'm just using those points to create lines that will make me to be able to properly create the curve with my French curve, as you can see that I'm doing. So I'm just aligning the French curve ruler with the lines just so I'll be able to get a straight curve, and that's that for that. Okay, so after that, the next thing is to mark out your vertical measurements, which is your shoulder to bust and your bust to waist. Okay, so because it's a jumpsuit, we're going to be stopping at our waist, so you want to measure that exact same measurement on the other side of the pattern, and then draw the straight line where you will now go ahead to label and draw your horizontal measurements later on. So to mark your horizontal measurements, you're going to be dividing your bust measurements by 4. Okay, so whatever measurement you get when you measure your bust, you're going to divide it by 4, and then you're going to mark it. And then you're also going to add seam allowance of 1 inch. So as you can see, once I marked that, then I just went ahead to mark 1 inch for seam allowance, and then you want to do the exact same thing for your waist as well. Divide your waist circumference by 4, and then just add 1 inch for seam allowance. But since I was also adding a dart on the waistline, I now added another 1 inch, so that made it 2 inches. And then connect the lines together like so. So once you've done that, it is time to move to the armhole. Okay, so for the armhole, you want to measure your armhole, then divide your measurements by 2, then you mark it on that top line where we started marking our neckline initially. Okay, so mine was 7.25 inches, and then I just measured it. And then from that point, I'm going to be going down by 1 inch just so that I'll be able to get my shoulder slope. Okay, so at this point now, you want to measure your armhole divided by 2. Okay, so when you measure your armhole divided by 2, then you mark it starting from that 1 inch that you went downwards. Okay. So because we want to get that exact same measurement on the other side, on the center front, on the center back, you want to measure how many inches the bust is from the mark that you created like so, and then you just want to mark it on the center back as well, and then draw the straight line. Okay, so now we're going to be creating the armhole curve. Because it's a armhole curve, and there's no need for us to do extras. Just get your armhole ruler and then just roll it like that. Okay, so once you're done with that, the next thing is the dart. Okay, so here you want to measure your nipple to nipple measurement, and then you want to divide that by 2, and then measure that on the waistline from the center back. So once you've measured it, then you're going to mark half an inch on both sides of that mark that you created. Then once you're done with that, then you want to move to your bust line and measure that half of your nipple to nipple measurement on the bust line, and then go downwards by 1 inch, and then you can now connect that point that you went down by 1 inch to the other points on your waistline. So yeah, that is just what you want to do to get the darts. And then the last thing that you're going to be doing is to add your seam allowance at the bottom of the top, like at the bottom. So just add 1 inch of seam allowance, and yeah, that's just that. All you just want to do now is check your measurements, ensure that everything is correct, and you just want to ensure that you can just make that line. I just wanted to ensure that I don't forget that I'm supposed to cut that part, because that is the zip allowance part. Okay, and then also here I also noticed that I did not add my seam allowance to the armhole curve, to the shoulder, that like I like to do. I like to add that so that it doesn't mess up the vertical measurements, so that things don't just go up than they're meant to go up, so that I'll have that space to join the shoulder seams of the front and the back panel. So it's just something that I like to add. So I just went ahead to add that, and I just went ahead to cut it like so, and this is what I had at the end of the day. So now the next thing is the front panel. So for this one, I don't know why I marked two lines. One line is just fine, because we're also going to be leaving that allowance there, not for any zipper, but because of the ruching detailing that we have at the front, so that we'll have the space to join it and create the tunnel like so, as you can see on the screen. So here I'm just leaving that half an inch as I did before for the top of the shoulder, and then literally the same thing. You want to start measuring your vertical measurements, which is your shoulder to bust and your bust to waist, starting from that half an inch line, and label them like so. Okay, so then we're going to move on to the neckline. Okay, so for this neckline for the front, we're going to work with 5 inches as well for the width, but for the length we're going to be doing something different for that. Okay, so we're going to move on to that later. Let us just sort out the rest of the pattern. Okay, so as you can see, then I'm marking my shoulder measurement divided by 2 like so, and then I'm just going to go ahead to go down by 1 inch the way we did for the back panel as well, and then connect the shoulder slope. And then after that, I'm going to mark my armhole line just as I did previously. Just mark half of your armhole line starting from the 1 inch drop down, and then ensure that you have the same measurement on the center front as well, and then just connect that line to create your armhole line. Okay, and once you have all your lines, then you can go ahead to do your horizontal measurements, which is dividing your bust divided by 4, and then adding 1 inch for similar ones, and that's literally it. Okay, so now since it's a front armhole, we are going to be doing something different for this. Okay, so what you want to do first of all is that you want to ensure that you have the same measurements on the armhole line as well, and then you want to create a line from the shoulder slope to the armhole line like so. Okay, and then once you do that, you want to measure the line, ensure that you measure it, and then whatever measurement you get, divide that by half. So as you can see, the full line was 8 inches, so I put 4 inches there. So from that middle point, you want to go inwards by half an inch. If you have a bigger bust, you can go inwards by 0.75 inches, and then you want to create and then you want to connect that line that you went inwards to the shoulder slope with a straight ruler, and then you want to finish off the rest of the armhole with a and with an armhole curve ruler. Okay, so that is how you do your armhole for the front panel. Okay, so now it is time to work on the neckline. The first thing that you want to do is mark 4 inches from the neckline part there, and mark 4 inches again on the center front, and then you just want to ensure that it's the same width that you have. So as you can see, it's 5 on the top line of the neckline, so I'm just making sure that the mark that I marked downwards is the exact same length, so that it doesn't like it's not like so that it's straight, and then I'm just marking that line. So then for on the center front, I'm not going to go downwards by 7 inches, and then I'm just going to connect that those lines like so with a French curve, and it's literally as easy as that. Okay, so for the darts, exact same way that you did the darts for the back panel, that's the exact same way that you're going to do the darts for this panel. Okay, so I decided to add a bust dart. So the first thing to do is to go to your bust line and then go downwards on that bust line by 1 inch, as you can see on the side seam, and then you want to connect it to where the bust dart starts at the top there on the bust line. Okay, so once you do that on that line that you just created, you are going to measure it. Ensure that it is like ensure that your tape hole is aligned with the line. Okay, don't just mark it on the bust line like that. No, you want to make sure that it's aligned with the line that you created, and then you want to mark 1.5 inches like that. And then once you do that, you now want to mark half an inch on each side of the mark that you marked on the side seam like so. Okay, so you just want to mark half an inch on each side, and then after you do that, you're now going to connect it to that 1.5 inches that you went downwards on the line. Okay, I hope you understand. Just take your time with this and you'll be able to get it. Just look at what I'm doing directly, and yeah, you just want to connect those lines and you have your bust dart already. But then after that, you want to just create this extension so that you'll be able to know exactly where you are supposed to do like put this dart in on your pattern once you do it. And then because we also want to ensure that we accommodate for any fabric that the darts might take off, what you just want to do here is that you just want to go outwards. Okay, so you can use another pen. So as you can see, I'm using another color of pen just so that I don't get confused. So you just want to go outwards, and you want to ensure that the thing is about like 0.75 inches away from the side seam. So as you can see, I just marked 0.75 inches like there, and I just make sure that I saw it there. Okay, so now what you're going to do now is that you're going to connect it to that side of the bottom side of the darts that you have already, and then you're now going to connect um the armhole side seam to that 0.75 inches again. Okay, so this is just an extra step to just ensure that okay, you have enough fabric for when you want to put the dart in. It's not really that necessary, but it's just the standard, so I just decided to add it in. And you can do it as well, and if there's any excess later on, you can just cut it off. And as you can see, I'm just adding that half an inch of seam allowance on the shoulder seam, and then I'm also adding 1 inch on the bottom. As you can see, that I'm doing below the waistline. Okay, so as you can see, I'm just ensuring that I also make that extension so that I know that when I'm cutting out, I'm not going to cut out that 1 inch that is in front of the center front line. Okay, so for the jumpsuit part, I honestly just had to use my basic bodice and trouser pattern that I've drafted a while back, and I just had to ensure that okay, all the measurements still accurate, and they were still accurate, so I didn't have to create another one. And honestly, this is really best practice. Like, just draft your basic trouser pattern, and you know that you can always whip it up when you want to make a trouser, and you don't have to worry about the stress that comes with drafting trouser patterns. Just draft it once, and you can use it for so many projects. So yeah, I'm going to link the video in the cards, and I'm also going to link it in my description down below in case you don't have this and you want to draft yours. Okay, as I said before, I'm just ensuring that all the measurements are still okay and I can still use it. But the only modification that I'm going to be making, as you can see, like is a straight legged trouser, right? It's not like a fitted one like the pattern has. So I made sure to ensure that I reflected that when I was cutting it on the fabric. Okay, so to cut it, I just folded my fabric into two, and then what I'm going to be doing is that I'm just going to be using a straight ruler to just create a straight line starting from the hip at the side seam, and then also a straight line starting from the crotch area at the other side, like so. Okay, so it's literally as easy as that. Since it's already like a trouser pattern that fits me properly, I just need to, like, the only thing that I'm really focusing on changing is the leg, and that one doesn't require too much brain work. All you just need to do is just create a straight leg and a straight line starting from the hip on the other side, and then starting from the crotch on the other side, and you have your straight leg trouser. It's literally as easy as that. So you want to do that exact same thing for the front panel of the trouser and the back panel of the trouser, and just cut it out like so. And yeah, that's literally it. So this is what you should have, like this. Okay, okay, so when you want to cut out your pattern pieces for the front panel, you want to cut out two pieces with the main fabric and two pieces with the lining fabric. And then for the back panel, you also want to cut out two pieces with the main fabric and two pieces with the lining fabric. Okay, so you have four pieces each. Okay, and it is highly recommended for you to cut out your pieces with the pattern paper still on the fabric. Okay, because we're going to have to be transferring the dart marks on the fabric itself, and you want to have the pattern for you to be able to do that effectively. Okay, so as you can see, the first thing that we're going to be doing is, so in order to do that, we're going to be working with pins. Okay, so that we're able to get exactly where the dart marks are on the fabric. Okay, so the method that I usually use is that I just try to, pierce the fabric through the dart marks like so. Okay, so as you can see for the um one side of the dart mark, I'm just piercing the pin through, and then I'm doing that for the other side as well, and then I'm also doing that for the top end of the dart, and that's literally it. So when I raise it up, when I raise the pattern up, as you can see, the pins are already through where the darts are supposed to be on the fabric. Do you understand what I mean? So this is just a really easy way to transfer your dart mark so that you don't have to start measuring on your fabric when you cut it out. So as you can see, as I'm just removing it, the pins will still stay in place, so I'll just be able to remove it and get the points where I'm supposed to put the dart. Okay, so for this bust dart, the only place that you need to do is the place that is marked with green. Okay, that place that we went outwards initially, that's the only place that you need to put the pin through on that side, and then you also need to of course put it through the top part of the bust darts, as you can see there, and as well as the waist darts, like so. Okay, so you just want to look at what I'm doing and just ensure that you're doing it the exact same way. And yeah, that's literally that. Then as you're removing it, you're going to be able to see the pins there, so you're just going to be marking those points like so. And yeah, you just want to do that for all of the fabric pieces that you have. So once that is done, you can now go ahead to just create the lines of your darts like so. Just connect those points that you've already created, and it's literally as simple as that. So while you're doing this, you want to ensure that not only are you marking this on the back panel, you're also ensuring that when you now pin it down together, you want to ensure that you are doing it on the right side. Okay, don't do this on the wrong side and then now swan, then you now have to loosen it. I'm saying this because I made that mistake. So while you do it, all you just need to do now is just fold the darts like so, fold them like you normally would with with the whole triangular kind of thing, and then pin them down. And then once you do that, you can even go a step further by pressing it down so that everything is laying flat. And then you just want to sew it like so. Okay. So as you can see, just don't mind that part there. That's the excess, and we'll just cut it out. But it's best that we still put it there. Okay. So now what you're going to be doing now is attaching the main fabric and the lining pieces with the right size facing each other. Okay. And what we're now going to be doing is that you're going to be sewing the neckline as well as the center front. Okay, so you just want to sew on the neckline like so, and then you should also sew the bottom layer. I did not sew the bottom layer at this point, but you should also sew the bottom layer. And yeah, you just want to sew the two necklines for the front panel as well as the back panel, and then the center front as well. And then for the back panel, you want to sew the center back as well, and also sew it at the bottom. Okay, so when you get to the bottom of the straight line of the neckline and you want to move to the curve, you want to raise your lever and then pivot. Okay, you don't just try to make it, like, you want to ensure that you acknowledge that sharp curve, and then you also want to do it for the for that side as well when you want to sew the center front. Okay, always ensure that you acknowledge the sharp edges so that it will turn out nice at the end of the day. So once you finish sewing the neckline for the back and for the front panel, you want to turn it over to the right side, and then what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be stay stitching on the lining. Okay, so this is to ensure that the lining fabric is not coming out after you've joined everything together. Okay, so what we are basically going to be doing is that you are going to be top stitching on the lining fabric with the seam allowance being under. Okay, so what you want to do is I want to separate the lining fabric from the main fabric, and as you can see, the seam allowance there should be below the lining fabric. Okay, so what you're going to be doing is that you're going to just be top stitching on that lining fabric, ensuring that you are getting the seam allowance. And this is just an extra step to ensure that the fabric is not coming out of the main fabric and the lining fabric is staying inside the garment. Okay, so because this one had a lot of sharp curves and sharp edges, you can decide to just like, once you get to a point where you cannot sew again, it is okay for you to just like stop there and then move on to the other side. Okay, so as you can see, it didn't get up to that sharp edge of the center front, so I just stopped there, and then I just started again from where I could start. Okay, so that is just what you want to do, and then you also want to do it for the neckline as well. So since the neckline has this curve, you want to take your time here and ensure that you are really pushing the lining outwards and ensuring that you are not making any creasing or anything like that. And yeah, you just want to do that until you get to the end of the fabric that you have there, like so. So as you can see, once I was done with that, this is what it was looking like. So as you can see, it's really neat, and all you can see is the main fabric. You can't see the lining fabric coming out and peeking through. It's an extra step, but trust me, it's going to be really, really worth it at the end of the day. Okay. So once you finish doing that for the back panel as well, you just want to press everything down and just make sure that everything is laying flat. So as you can see, I did not do the bottom part, but you want to do the bottom part at this stage as well, just to make everything, seamless at the end of the day. Okay. So yeah, that is just that for that part. And then now what we're going to be doing is joining the shoulder seams together. Okay, so what you want to do at this stage is that you want to join the front panel and back panel together. So in order to do that, you want to get to your back panel and lay it open like that. Okay, make sure that the lining is on one side and then the main fabric is on another side. Okay, so what you're not going to be doing to do this is that you're not going to be folding the front panel, fold it, like let the lining and the main fabric be together, and then join the main fabric and the main fabric of the back panel and the front panel together with the right sides facing each other, and ensure that the slope is aligning properly. And then what you're now going to do is just cover those two panels with the lining fabric. I hope you understand what I mean. Just take your time to look at it. You can rewind again. And then after you do that, you're just going to be making a straight stitch, okay? So as you can see, I'm just showing you how I did it again for the other side. So you just want to, place the front panel on the back panel's main fabric and then use the lining fabric to cover it, okay? So this is a hack that will ensure that your seam on the shoulder is going to look very, very, very seamless. It's going to be very neat, and the seam is going to be enclosed. Okay, so this is something that I do anytime I work with lining fabric, because it just makes that place really neat and all of that. Okay, so as you can see now, you see what I mean. So I'm just making that straight line on that line, and then once I turn it over to the right side, as you can see, it's going to be very neat, and even the back panel is also going to be very neat. So as you can see, really, really, really neat. So I would highly recommend that you do this, method. So yeah, just press it down and just ensure that everything is laying flat. So now once you're done with that, it is time to do the tunnel for the drawstring part. Okay, so it's time now to create that tunnel and join the front pieces together. Okay, so we're going to be joining these with the right sides facing each other, and we're also going to be joining it with 1 inch of seam allowance, like we did when we drafted the pattern. So as you can see, at this point I had not done the bottom seam, so I went ahead to do that first of all. So yeah, you just want to just connect the two front pieces with 1 inch at the center front, and then once you now do that, you're now going to open that seam up and then press it down. And then after you now press it down, you're going to create a top stitch on that line there, like so. Okay, so you can just leave like maybe 1/2 inch from the center, just to create enough space for the string to pass through. And once you do that, you have your tunnels and you can just pass your string through. Okay, so moving on to the trouser, the first thing you want to do is the dart. Okay, so you're supposed to do the method that I did for the bodices, where I just used pins to just create the dark marks. But because of the way I arranged my pattern when I cut out my fabric, that was not possible. So I just decided to just do it normally like I would. And as you can see, it's just a lot of stress rather than all these measurements that you're doing on the fabric that you've already done on the pattern. Just use your dark marks. So yeah, I'm just going to be fast forwarding through this part, because yeah, just use the dark marks. That's the best method so far. Okay, and then after you get the lines, you want to of course sew the darts, and then you want to press the darts just to ensure that everything is laying flat and looking nice. Okay, okay, so now once you're done with that, the next thing is to sew the bottom of the trouser together. Okay, so you want to sew the hem with the right sides facing each other. Okay, so you want to sew the main fabric and the lining fabric with the right sides facing each other, and then you also want to sew that part. Okay, so at this point, safe, we should even sew the top of the trouser, like so. You want to sew the top and then go all the way to the crotch line and then all the way to the inner leg. Okay, so you want to sew it all the way down like so. Okay, at this point I didn't sew the top of the trouser, but looking back now, I should have just sewn it there and then, just to make everything faster and all of that. Okay, so just do that. But after that, what I just did was just turn it over to the right side, and then I just made sure that I pressed everything down to make sure that everything is laid flat at that side. And as you can see, I noticed that I was supposed to sew the top, so this is just me, sewing the top. Okay, so yeah, once you're done with that and you sew the top of this thing and you have everything laying together, what you want to do is that you want to get the back panel and the front panel of the trouser. Okay, so the way you know it is that crotch will not be aligned. One will be lower and a slight bit more extended than the other, so that's how you know that you have the right one. So when you have those ones, you now want to connect them at the crotch as well as the hem of the trouser. Okay, so you want to ensure that the crotch, even though normally they are not aligned, you want to make sure that they are aligned, and then you want to sew them all the way down. So once you sew them all the way down, this is what you should have. You should have something like this, and then you now want to fold this with the right side showing outwards. Okay, and then just pin down like so. Okay, you also want to take note of the back one. You want to ensure that the back panel is under. Okay, so once you have done that, you now want to get your bodice piece. Okay, you want to get that and also put the back panel under. And then as you can see, I'm just folding it over and ensuring that I am pinning the front panel of the bodice to the front panel of the trouser. Okay, so you want to ensure that the center front of the bodice is aligning with the edge of the trouser. Okay, so you want to pin it down in a way that is aligning, and then you want to do the exact same thing for the back panel. You just want to turn it over and ensure that the right sides of both the trouser piece and the bodice piece are connected, and then you just want to pin it down like so. Okay, so for the back panel, you are just going to sew straight. Okay, while for the front panel, because we want to have that cut out, so what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be leaving 1 inch, 1.5 inches from the center front like so. Okay, so I'd already done the other side, so I'm just showing you like what I'm doing now. So as you can see, you just want to leave 1.5 inches from the center front of the front panel, and then that is now where you're going to be sewing from. Okay, you are not going to sew all the way like you would for the back panel. You want to leave that space so that we will be able to have that cutout detail that you see on the dress. Okay, so now once you're done with that, this is what you should have. The trouser pieces should be connected to the bodice pieces, and what is left to do now is to sew that part there like so. Okay, so you want to sew the um basically the center front of the trouser. Okay, so you're just going to align it together like so, of course with the right sides facing each other, and then you're just going to pin it down and pin it down and pin it down. Okay, so that is the crotch area like so, as you can see, and then I'm just going to go all the way to the back panel, and then I'm just going to just keep on pinning until I get a few inches below the waistline, because we're going to be adding the zipper to the back panel. Okay, so you're just going to just pin a little some inches below the waistline, and yeah, you just want to now sew starting from the front panel like so. Okay, so once you sew everything down, this is what you should have, and your jumpsuit should start coming out well. So as you can see, we have that opening, and that is good, and we also have our trouser and the crotch sewn perfectly. Okay, and now the next thing to do is to sew the zipper and sew the side seams. Okay, so of course, if you want a detailed tutorial on how to sew a zipper, because I didn't want it to be too long, I'm not including it in this video. I will leave it linked in the description box. And then you also want to sew the side seams as well. Just ensure that it is your correct size. I'll also be leaving a video on how to do proper shaping in the description box down below. And yeah, you guys, that is literally that for that. That is how to make this jumpsuit. If you want the exact same sleeves that I used, then I have a detailed video explaining how to draft, cut and sew it as well, so just go and check it out in the description box below as well. So yeah, that is just that for this video. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I hope that you understood everything that was said in this video. Please like, comment, share and subscribe. I really do appreciate your support, and yeah, I will see you in my next video. Bye.